Welcome back to my channel. This is Nikki of Nikki's Homemade Crafts. Welcome back to the Corner to Corner Mystery Crochet Along Part 2. I'm going to use Premier's Momenti yarn as well as the Anti-Pilling yarn in white, and I have my 4.5mm hook ready to go. We're going to use both colors this time around, so this video focuses more on how to do the color changes so you don't have so much yarn to weave in. Okay, so that's what the focus is of this video, so you can know exactly how to do this and make it easier on yourself. Now, remember that in part 1, we talked about how to do corner to corner specifically. So if you've never done this, go back to part 1 and watch it again, just that you have a refresher. In this one, I will focus, as I said, exactly on the color changes. So it's going to make it easier for you and you don't have to worry so much. So let's get into it. So this time around, you're going to have this bigger graph. So instead of a small rectangle, you're doing a square. You're doing a 20 times 20 square, and it may take you a couple hours, so this project may be a little bit longer than normal, but trust me, it is worth it. Okay, so you're going to start down here or up here or here or here. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you turn it. It's totally up to you. I like to start here on the bottom corner and then work my way over to this corner. But again, it doesn't matter. You can see it's mirrored. So you choose however you want to pick it, okay? In order to teach you exactly the corner to corner color changes that are happening, and we're still using double crochet, so all that stays the same, I'm going to pick a little small area right up here so you can see how the color changes are working out. So instead of showing you everything, I'm going to focus on the quality of the teaching versus the quantity. So right here you can see this is kind of a little piece of it from this area right here, so I can teach you how to do the color changes. Just like part 1, I wrote everything down, and it really does help me, and as you get along you kind of get a feel for it and you won't need all these arrows anymore. But as you are brand new, I highly recommend you make your arrows. In fact, I still make the arrows when I get in a corner so I know where I am, especially when everything is kind of mirrored. Sometimes it can be hard to figure out which side was I on now. Okay, so I do still make my arrows on my bigger graph. So I'm going to start down here. We're going to start with one color. The pink would be obviously the Momenti color, and then the white is the white. So hopefully you can see the white. Fingers crossed. I'll make sure that my lighting is properly done. Everything else is written down exactly the same way as we did in part 1. So let's get started with the first pixel down here. We have 2 pixels to do in one color, and then we're switching immediately over to the white color, and I'll show you how to do exactly this transition right here. So just like we did in part 1, it's a chain of 6. Then in the first, second, and third chain, you're going to place your double crochet. So there's my first pixel. I'm going to turn. And now I'm going to go up, and as before, I like to check my things off. So I just did this one. So now we're going to go over here. These two arrows are matching, so which means we're doing an increase. So we're still with the chain of 6 right here. So chain of 6 into the first, second, and third, we're going to place a double crochet. So now we finished our second pixel. We need to connect it to the first one now. So typically you would have done that with the same color. However, we are changing colors from one pixel to another color in the next pixel, which means I'm going to use my white yarn to do the slip stitch. So I'm going to pull it simply through. You may have to adjust your loop a little bit. And once you have your white, I'm going to pull the other color just slightly so everything is kind of where it needs to be, and make my chain of 3 in white. You can kind of weave this in at the same time so you're going to place your double crochets around it. So place your 3 double crochets pretty much right on top of it. And once you're done, you made your 3 double crochets and your chain of 3 all in white. And as you can see, I just dropped my other color. I did not cut it. Let's check off where we are. We did this one and we did this one. So now again, we're going to double check. We're going from one arrow to another. So what is this arrow matching? It matches our increasing. So that means we're still going to do our chain of 6. So chain of 6 on this edge, place our double crochet set right into the chain space, and then we switching color again back over to the Momenti color. So let me show you how to do that. So first, let me make my white pixel. So as I said, chain of 6. And 1 double crochet in each of the first, second, and third chain that you made. And turn your work so that now it connects right here. And this is the point now where we're switching color from one to another. So let me check this off real quick so we know we did this one. So right in this spot, we're changing color from white to pink or from white to Momenti. So this is where you need to connect it. So you need to now let the white one go and grab your Momenti, if that's what you're using, or pink or whatever you're using, and you're going to pull it over. So you can see I just picked it up, and I'm going to pull it over and make my slip stitch. Okay, now I'm going to adjust my white a little bit, but I'm going to make sure that I'm not pulling this yarn too much. So kind of pull it just enough that it's the same length as your chain of 3. So you can kind of see it there in the back. It's just hanging over there. So that means we're going to make our double crochets right on top. So you see I didn't cut any yarn, I just pulled it over. Chain of 3. As I said, don't pull too hard. You just need enough to get it over there, okay? And now you are crocheting right over this yarn, so it kind of gets hidden. And you place your double crochets right into that chain space, and therefore covering that area where you just pulled it over, okay? So now we need to do our slip stitch to the next pixel. And let me kind of hold it this direction because that's where we are, right? We're in the center. We just did this one. So now we're going over here. We have one more pixel to do. So in the same color. So let's do that. So chain of 3, we're in the middle of it, right? And our 3 double crochets. Now we're back on the edge. So let's figure out what we need to do on the edge. So we're right here. So our arrow is right here in this direction. So we finished this one, we're going in this direction. So this arrow matches this arrow, therefore we're still doing increases. So let's do that. So chain of 6, and then your double crochets in the first, second, and third, and slip stitch to the neighboring pixel. So let's see how this looks like. So we're right here. We finished this. So we're right in this spot right here. So we have one more pixel to go in Momenti, and then we're switching back to white. So let's do that. So chain of 3, we're in the middle of it, right? And our 3 double crochets. So now we need to switch back to the white. So we're doing the exact same process. So we're going to pick up our white right here, and we're going to simply pull through as a slip stitch. Once we kind of have it through, I kind of hold everything in place, and I'm going to pull my Momenti color here a little bit so everything is kind of holding. And I make sure that my yarn is just long enough. I don't want to pull too hard. I want it to be about the same length as that chain of 3 underneath. So chain of 3 now. You can at this point again pull your Momenti just a little bit so everything is kind of tight. And now you're going to place your double crochets into the chain space, and as you can see, that yarn, the white yarn that we kind of pulled over, is going to be covered with the double crochet stitches, so it's hidden. So again, no cutting of the yarn or any sort. So now we did this one and this one. We have one more white to go right here, so let's do that. So slip stitch, chain of 3, and 3 double crochets. So let's check where we are. We're right in this position right here. So we did this one. So now the arrows go in this direction, okay? It matches the decreasing one, not the increasing anymore. So now that means we're going to go over to the decreasing, which means 3 slip stitches and a chain of 3. So right in this spot right here, going from this to this, all in white. So turn your work and do your slip stitches. It's 3 of them. I like to go right into the double crochets, but you do you. And then chain of 3 and our 3 double crochets. So we did this one right here. And now you can see we're transitioning back into the Momenti. So at this point we need to switch over here. So that means I'm going to drop my white again. I'm going to pick up my Momenti and I'm going to pull it over. You're going to have situations where you can pull it upwards like this, and that's totally fine as well. It's going to hide it very nicely. So if you're doing it in 1 pixel away, in this direction or in this direction, it's totally fine, okay? Now, if you're far, far away, make a big loop and then keep going. And you can cut this later and weave it in. But ours is just 1 pixel away. So with 1 pixel away, whether you're going in this direction or in this direction, you can simply pull it over and it gets hidden that way. So you're going to have both of these scenarios happening depending where you are in your project, okay? You're either going to pull in this direction or upwards to the next pixel over. So that depends on where you are in your pixel graph. So here I just had to pull it over, so chain of 3. I adjusted it to make sure it's not too tight because you don't want to crunch this up. You just want to lay it over the same distance. You're going to do your double crochets. So we did this one right here. So now everything is just Momenti, so I can cut my white if I wanted to. I'm just going to let it hang. And we have 1 more pixel up here to go in the Momenti, so I'm going to slip stitch over here into the neighboring and chain of 3 and my 3 double crochets. Again, slip stitch to the neighboring. We are on the edge here, so let me lay it out just like it's on the graph so you can see where we are. We did this one and this one. So right in this point, this is where we are right here. So we need to determine, are we increasing or decreasing? Well, this arrow matches this arrow, which means we are decreasing. So we're going to do our 3 slip stitches, chain of 3, and our double crochets. So here we go. 1, 2, and 3. Now chain of 3 and 3 double crochets. Now slip stitch to the neighboring and let's finish it up. Chain of 3, 3 double crochets, slip stitch to the neighboring and turn. And we have 1 more pixel here, and again it's decreasing, so 3 slip stitches, chain of 3 and 3 double crochets and slip stitch to the neighboring. And just like I said in part 1, if you really want to go right into the corner, do your 3 slip stitches so you end up exactly in the corner. And then here is our little tiny swatch. So we did this one, well, in this direction, the other side, and then this one. So we checked all our boxes off and we finished it. So we went from this one to this one. And now you know how to do the color changes. So if it's just 1 away, you just carry it over and you're good to go. And at this point you can see you should only have pretty much 4 pieces that you need to weave in. Although I do recommend leaving the Momenti color kind of a little bit longer again. You may need a little bit more than 2 feet, possibly 3 feet or so, maybe a little more, 3 to 4. So cut enough yarn that you have left over. If you didn't do that, that's fine. You're just going to reattach your yarn later for part 3. So let me show you the big piece because this is what you're actually making. It is the 20 times 20. So let me show you how that looks like in reality. Let me snap right to it. And here we go. So I haven't woven in my ends yet, so you can see where everything starts. And so I went from one corner and then went all the way over here to the other corner. Unfortunately, it doesn't fit on the camera, but you can see it. And you can see that I only have, well, besides this one, I have 4 pieces of yarn to weave in. I left one of them a little longer, and this is how it looks like. So now I want to see your part 2. You already posted part 1, so yay. This time it's all about color changes. And this piece, by the way, if you need measurements, is roughly 14 times 14 inches. So that's the measurement of this piece. So it should be roughly the same for you as well. So let's start the guessing game. What do you think this is gonna be? Why is there color over here? And again, if you don't have multicolor, it can totally be solid up here as well. But what do you think we're making? Like, what is this part right here? What is this part over here? And remember, there's still some crocheting to do in part 3. So make sure you come back for part 3. If you're watching this way later than the Mystery Crochet Along actual time, you will see part 3 happening right here. And of course, if you're on my newsletter, you have the email that you get immediately as soon as it's available. And as I said, the written as well as the graph of this pattern is for free with ads on my website and without ads in my membership. So you pick which one works best for you. And I hope to see you back in part 3. Let's finish this up. But in the meantime, let's get to part 2 and post your pictures. Be sure to like, comment, and share this video. And be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on the bell to get a notification next time I'm publishing a video or go live. Now go ahead and watch the next video. You're gonna want to, I promise you do.